Welcome back to Logic Unlocked. This integral looks daunting. It involves the imaginary unit, nested natural logs, and spans positive real values. Yet its value is a single, elegant constant. Direct integration is not the path, symmetry is the key. Our strategy is to split the integral's domain at 1. This will allow us to expose a hidden relationship between the two parts. Let's define I as the integral part of our problem. We split I into two pieces, an integral from 0 to 1 and an integral from 1 to infinity. Now, we will perform a substitution on the second integral to transform its domain back to be from 0 to 1. Let's focus solely on the second part of our integral, from 1 to infinity. We'll call this I2. Let's apply the substitution t equals 1 over u. This implies that dt equals negative 1 over u squared du. As t goes from 1 to infinity, u goes from 1 to 0. After substituting, our integral looks much more complex, but now we simplify. First, we can absorb the negative sign in du to flip the limits of integration from 1 to 0 to 0 to 1. The limits are now 0 to 1. Let's simplify the algebraic fraction. The expression simplifies to u over 1 minus u to the fourth. Now for the logarithms. The natural log of 1 over u is negative the natural log of u. But when we square it, the negative sign vanishes. So we have the natural log squared of u. Next, the nested logarithm. The natural log of u to the negative 2 is negative 2 times the natural log of u. Since u is between 0 and 1, the natural log of u is negative, making the argument positive. This is the transformed expression for I2. Now we are ready to combine it with I1. The magic happens when we add our original first integral to this transformed second integral. First, let's analyze the nested logarithm in y1, where t is between 0 and 1. Here t is less than 1, so the natural log of t is negative. The argument of the outer logarithm, the natural log of t squared, is therefore negative. To evaluate this, we must use the complex logarithm, which introduces a term of I times pi. Now, let's write out the full sum for I. Substituting our expressions for I1 and I2, we get this. Notice the denominators. We can rewrite 1 minus t to the fourth as negative of t to the fourth minus 1. Now both integrals have the same denominator, which allows us to combine them. Let's expand the first integral into two parts. And here is the beautiful moment. The complicated logarithmic terms are identical but with opposite signs, so they cancel out completely. After the cancellation, our entire impossibly complex integral reduces to this much simpler form. To solve this final integral, we will convert the algebraic fraction into a geometric series. First, we factor out a negative 1 from the denominator. Now, we can express this as a geometric series, which is valid since t is between 0 and 1. Let's substitute this series back into our integral. We can swap the summation and the integral, allowing us to evaluate the inner integral for a general n. This integral has a general formula. For our case, m is 2, and k is 4n plus 1. Applying the formula gives us 2 factorial over the quantity. 4n plus 2 cubed. Simplifying this expression yields 1 over 4 times the quantity. 2n plus 1 cubed. Plugging this result back, our integral I is now expressed as an infinite sum. This infinite sum is directly related to a famous mathematical function. Our sum consists of the reciprocals of the cubes of all odd numbers. The Riemann Zeta function, zeta of s, is the sum over all integers. We can relate the sum over just the odds to the total sum. The sum over the odd terms is equal to 1 minus 1 over 2 to the s, all times zeta of s. For our case, with s equals 3, the sum is 7/8 of zeta of 3. Finally, we have the value for our integral I. We are on the final step. It's time to assemble the pieces and reveal the final answer. We multiply our result for I by the constant factor from the original problem. And now, for the satisfying cancellation of all the constants. The constant factors cancel. the 32, the 7, and pi, leaving the imaginary unit times negative imaginary unit times zeta of 3. This simplifies to negative imaginary unit squared times zeta of 3. And since the imaginary unit squared is negative 1, we have negative of negative 1, which is positive 1. The final answer is simply zeta of 3, also known as Apéry's constant. Let's reflect on this incredible result. We started with an expression filled with imaginary units and complex functions, yet through careful, rigorous analysis of its symmetries, it collapsed into a single, fundamental, real number, a truly beautiful demonstration of the hidden connections in mathematics. Thanks for watching. If this was helpful, please like and subscribe.